All right, this is the Andrew Klavan Show, and today we'll be asking, is the left out of its mind? Yes, it is. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again tomorrow. Oh, no, wait, we're going to talk a little bit more than that, but we're starting again without our song and without a little comedy at the intro. Not to be somber and solemn, and it's not that this is obviously is a somber and solemn occasion when we're talking about all these deaths in Vegas, but, I'm not trying to peddle my emotions as mattering to you or making anything I say more important. That is the left's job, and they did it all through yesterday, and I have to tell you, when I look at this story, I'm seeing a story of mental illness, but it's not just the mental illness of this evildoer who opened fire for reasons we still don't know, but it also is the reaction to this from our entertainment, media, and political overlords on the left who really can't let 24 hours go by and let us mourn without trying to use our emotions to peddle their philosophy. And I think that there's something wrong with that. That is not okay. And I'm not even going to argue about the guns. I'll say something about that, but I don't even want to argue about the issues. I just want to talk about ways people react to a tragedy and ways that you don't react to a tragedy. So, I'm going to say some things about mental illness today, and I don't want anybody to take this as an attack on the mentally ill. Most mentally ill people are harmless, but there are kinds of mental illness that are not harmless. Obviously, this guy, Stephen Paddock, who opened fire, you can say, we don't know what his motives are yet. Everybody's speculating. ISIS has claimed credit twice. They've claimed credit twice, but law enforcement says they can't find any connection between the guy and any religious or political organization. There's some people posting stuff saying they saw him at an anti-Trump rally. We don't know that. People speculating, all kinds of speculating. We just don't know anything about it. We just don't know. He was some kind of gambler, it seems like, apparently had millions of dollars, but we really don't know. So let's start from a baseline of what's a sane response to a terrible, terrible tragedy like this. And it is a terrible tragedy, and we've seen a lot, and we've been through a lot these last few weeks. These are the hurricanes and all this stuff going on. It's just been a lot of stuff, a lot of tragedy to take in. Here's Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the presidential spokeswoman, talking about the first thing she does is she pays tribute to all the people who did wonderful, heroic things in this moment. And the reason this is important, and obviously she gets very emotional, we've all been very emotional during this period. You can't read about this stuff without tearing up. But the reason it's important to remember this is because one guy can cause so much damage. As we saw on 9/11, just a handful of people can cause so much damage, so much tragedy. But think about the fact that instead of entropy constantly wearing away our society is constantly building up. It's constantly getting bigger, better. Technology is improving. They're giving Nobel Prizes to people who've made wonderful, this week, to people who've made wonderful discoveries about the way we age, things that's going to help cure diseases in the future. People are doing wonderful things, building stuff, loving each other, creating children all the time. And the reason this is news is because it doesn't happen all that much. I mean, I know it seems like it happens a lot, but it doesn't happen all that much. So here is Sarah Huckabee Sanders paying tribute to the heroes of Las Vegas. This is cut number 2.
One man, 29-year-old Sonny Melton, had traveled from Tennessee to Las Vegas for the concert with his wife, Heather. When the bullets began raining down from above, Sonny shielded her from danger, selflessly giving up his life to save hers. They'd been married for just over a year. Others risked their own lives to save people that they had never met. Mike McGarry of Philadelphia laid on top of students at the concert to protect them from the gunfire. They're 20, I'm 53, he said, and I've lived a good life. Lindsay Paget and her fiance, Mike J., fled for cover during the attack and immediately returned to the scene with their pickup truck to help transport the wounded to nearby hospitals. Gail Davis, who was attending the concert with her husband, said she owes her life to a brave police officer who instinctively served as a human shield, protecting her from harm. Sadly, multiple police officers, both on duty and off duty, were among those killed or injured. But what these people did for each other says far more about who we are as Americans than the cowardly acts of a killer ever could. The Gospel of John reminds us that there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for a friend. The memory of those who displayed the ultimate expression of love in the midst of an unimaginable act of hate will never fade. Their examples will serve as an eternal reminder that the American spirit cannot and will not ever be broken. In the days ahead, we will grieve as a nation, we will honor the memory of those lost as a nation, and we will come together, united as one nation, under God and indivisible.
So what's it take? 24 hours. That's all. That really is what we're talking about. For the first 24 hours, that's really all we need to talk about. Immediately, a reporter goes to the gun control agenda, and it is like clockwork. If they don't have to tell us how wonderful Muslims are because a Muslim was just killed people, if they don't have to blame the GOP for every neo-Nazi loon who wanders around and kills one person and then do weeks and weeks and weeks of reports about the white supremacist threat that virtually doesn't exist in this country. If they don't have anything else, if they don't have to make excuses for the Bernie bro and tell us how it wasn't Bernie Sanders' fault that the guy opened fire, they go to gun control because this is what they want. This is a big deal, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but it's just the lack of restraint. I just want to talk about what is going on in the guy's mind that he has to go there today. It's not like he's not going to be there tomorrow. He's going to be there tomorrow. Sarah Sanders is going to be there tomorrow. He's got to go there today and listen to the sanity of Sarah Sanders' response, which is the only response, the only rational response you can make. Listen to the question, listen to her sane answer.
Many times when these horrible massacres occur, it leads to questions about gun control. Has this particular massacre made the president think anything more about pursuing tighter gun laws, such as background checks, to prevent massacres like this from happening again?
Look, this is an unspeakable tragedy. Today is a day for consoling the survivors and mourning those we lost. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of those individuals. There's a time and place for a political debate, but now is the time to unite as a country. There's currently an open and ongoing law enforcement investigation. A motive is yet to be determined, and it would be premature for us to discuss policy when we don't fully know all the facts or what took place last night.
So that, of course, is rational. Why is it rational? Because the time, how about in your own life? Is the time to make decisions about your own life, about the policies of your own life, when you're upset, when you're grieving? When they tell you if somebody you love dies, you should wait a year. If somebody you're very close, like a spouse, dies, you should wait a year before you make any big decisions because you got to calm down, you got to get rational. Isn't that? But the left has an expression, right? Don't let an emergency go to waste. Don't let a crisis go to waste because they are playing off emotion. But the thing is, they're not just playing off your emotion, they're playing off their own emotions. And that's one of the things I'm going to talk about. Now, why do you wait? You wait to get the facts. Listen, I'm not a gun nut. I shoot sometimes. I own a gun, but I'm not a person who worships at the altar of guns or anything like that. I understand that there are debates to be had. This guy apparently had some gizmos that helped turn semi-automatic weapons into automatic weapons. If that should be illegal, I'm willing to debate that, but not today. Not today. Why? Because we got to see, did he break any laws? They keep going to guns as if guns were the issue here. But, the AEI, I think it was, just put out a chart showing that since 1994, gun ownership has skyrocketed. It's gone up like 56%. The murder rate has, at the same time, gone down 49%. So you can't make the argument that gun ownership and the murder rate correlate. You just can't make that argument. It's not necessarily that murder rate went down because of gun ownership going up, though that's a possibility. Correlation isn't cause, but it's probably better law enforcement. That's why I think the murder rate has gone down. There's been a lot better law enforcement. So you can't say that. And people keep saying, well, in Australia, where they don't have a Second Amendment, they confiscated all these guns and their murder rate went down, but it went down about the same as ours. So it went down the same as ours. So what are they talking about? And by the way, just to show that this issue is political, the FBI recently released new crime data, and there was a correlation of where murders spiked and where Black Lives Matter had been most active, what Heather McDonald calls the Ferguson effect. So why aren't they worried about that? Why aren't they saying, hey, you know what? We got to stop this Black Lives Matter stuff. We got to stop CNN from going on and saying hands up, don't shoot when that never happened. We got to stop this because when they pull the police out of these neighborhoods, people start to die. They're not talking about that. It's all agenda. It's all agenda and it's all emotion. And let me talk, before I show you some of this video, which really did get to me, let me just talk about why the left You know, I believe that ideas are the most formative things about people. I believe that when we're talking about black people, for instance, in this country, we're not really talking about black people. I don't care what color they are, because a lot of the dysfunction that you see in poor black communities, you see in poor white communities. You're talking about the ideas that are in people's heads. That is what forms them. The ideas, the religious ideas, whether you're an atheist or a religious person, that idea forms you. All kinds of, whether you grew up under freedom, that forms you. Whether you believe in top-down government or bottom-up government, all these ideas are what make you who you are. Now, a while back, just 2 weeks ago, wasn't, we had the philosopher Edward Phaser on, and we were talking about Aristotelian ideas of natural law that begin with the idea of what things are for. How can you know what's good or bad if you don't know what a thing is for? How can I know whether I should use this, corkscrew to open a bottle, or, stick it in my eye, unless I know what the thing is for? And it's the same thing with human beings. If you don't know what a human being is for, if you don't know what his ultimate goal is, if you don't know what good life you're aiming toward, then you can't know whether something is good or bad, because you can't know whether it's advancing you toward that goal. Without that idea, which the left has lost entirely, and I'm not talking about your average liberal Democrat voter, I'm talking about the left thought leaders. I'm talking about the people who are the media and our entertainment media and our academy. If you give away that idea and you believe that life is purposeless and people are purposeless and people don't have a purpose and a cause and a reason for being, then all you've got left is what feels right. It's called emotivism, right? It's the idea that when you talk about morals, you're really just talking about your emotions. So when I'm talking about facts about guns and all that, that's one thing. But when I say guns are bad, I'm just talking about how I feel. And the problem with emotivism is that sometimes it's in conflict with the facts. And if it's in conflict with the facts, and you don't change your mind, you're essentially acting like a crazy person. You're acting just like somebody is mentally ill, because you're not relating to reality. Which brings me to the late night comedians. And we here at the Daily Wire, we put together a little montage of yesterday's comedians suddenly doing this thing where they all have the serious faces and they all got rid of the monologue. And fine, again, we're all unhappy, we're all emotional, and they start to sell gun control, show after show after show. And I didn't even put all of them in it because I didn't want to go on forever. Here's the montage.
This morning, we have children without parents and fathers without sons, mothers without daughters. We lost 2 police officers. We lost a nurse from Tennessee, a special ed teacher from a local school here in Manhattan Beach. And it's a kind of thing that it makes you want to throw up or give up.
Gun violence should not be a staple of American life. Some say it's too early to talk about gun control. For those victims last night, it's far too late.
Congress can be heroes by doing literally anything. Universal background checks, or come up with a better answer. Enforce Obama's executive order that denied mentally ill gun purchases, or a better answer. Reinstate the assault weapons ban, or come up with a better answer. Anything but nothing.
We've talked about gun violence on this show before, and I'm not sure what else I can say. I also know nothing I say will make any difference at all. But to Congress, I would just like to say, are there no steps we can take as a nation to prevent gun violence? Or is this just how it is and how it's going to continue to be?
Last night, the White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said this is not the time, or actually it was today, this morning, she said it was not the time for political debate. And I don't know, we have 59 innocent people dead. It wasn't their time either. So I think now is the time for political debate.
So, first of all, I used to have a girlfriend who cried every time she wanted something. Now I just have Jimmy Kimmel. Like, how often is this guy going to use his tears? We're all in tears. We're all upset. We're all, but why does that doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you, sure, it makes you a human being, and I'm glad you're a human being, but it doesn't make your points any better. It doesn't make your ideas any better. And this idea that, yes, we must act now before people forget, before they become unemotional. No, the exact opposite is true. The exact opposite is true. We should wait. We're dealing with an important right. The right to bear arms in this country is important because we're a bottom-up country. We are a place, theoretically, I know the left doesn't like this, but theoretically the idea is that the guy in his general store in the Midwest and the guy in his big office in New York are the bosses of themselves, right? And the government is given certain limited areas that they can control. Now, I know we're losing this to this massive bureaucracy called the deep state, and this is part of the reason I think people get so angry, because they don't even know who to blame sometimes. But that is the idea, and guns protect that right. We don't have guns. The Constitution didn't allow us to have guns because they wanted us to go hunting. They wanted us to have guns so that we were the final militia that defends our rights, because that was how the country was formed. And they, this whole thing that we have to, and the other thing that they say that's just not true is we have to do something. We have to do something. Maybe not. Maybe we can't do anything. We don't know whether we have to do something. We don't know if there's anything to do. We don't know who this guy is. Maybe ISIS is right. Maybe he was working for them. We don't know. Maybe he's a anti-Trump guy, like the right says, doing that. We don't know. I mean, how do we know anything except for the fact we know he was mentally ill? And that is a problem. And I really do believe that the left is creating a psycho society, a psychopathic society.